Imagine discovering that most of your suffering has never come from life itself, but from the way you react to it. Imagine realizing that the people who seem the strongest are not stronger because they have easier lives. They are stronger because they refuse to surrender control of their minds. In the next few minutes, you may discover why some people collapse under pressure while others become unbreakable. And one of these 10 Stoic lessons could completely change how you face pain, betrayal, failure, loneliness, and fear. Stay until the end, because the final lesson was practiced by emperors, warriors, and some of the most resilient people in history. And it may be the one lesson that saves you during the darkest moment of your life. A few years ago, a man lost everything. His business failed, his marriage ended, friends disappeared overnight. He spent months trapped in bitterness, asking the same question every day. Why is this happening to me? He blamed circumstances, he blamed people, he blamed life itself. Then one day, while reading the writings of Marcus Aurelius, he came across a simple idea. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Those words changed him. Nothing around him changed overnight. His debts were still there. His loneliness remained. But something inside shifted. Instead of asking why this happened to him, he began asking what this experience could teach him. Slowly, he rebuilt his life. Years later, he would say that losing everything was the greatest gift he had ever received because it forced him to become someone stronger. This is the essence of Stoicism, not escaping pain, but transforming pain into power. The first Stoic lesson is this: stop seeking control over things you cannot control. Most people spend their entire lives fighting reality. They become angry because people disappoint them. They become anxious because the future is uncertain. They become resentful because life does not follow their plans. But according to Epictetus, there are only 2 categories in life: things within your control and things outside your control. Your thoughts, choices, attitudes, and actions belong to you. Other people's opinions, behavior, outcomes, and circumstances do not. Think about how much energy is wasted every single day worrying about things you cannot change. A delayed promotion, a betrayal, aging, the economy, the past, the weather, other people's judgments. Every moment spent fighting the uncontrollable is a moment stolen from your power. Mentally strong people understand something that emotionally reactive people never learn. Peace begins the moment you stop arguing with reality. Imagine standing in the ocean trying to stop the waves. You would exhaust yourself and eventually drown. But if you learn to ride the waves instead of resisting them, you survive and even thrive. Life works exactly the same way. When someone insults you, you cannot control their words, but you control whether those words destroy your peace. When failure arrives, you cannot always control the outcome, but you control whether failure becomes your identity. This shift changes everything, because the strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. It is usually the person who has mastered their inner world. And this leads to an uncomfortable question. If most of your suffering comes from what you cannot control, then how much unnecessary pain are you creating for yourself every single day? Keep that question in mind, because the next lesson may reveal why so many people remain emotionally weak. The second Stoic lesson is never react emotionally in the heat of the moment. Modern society encourages immediate reactions. Social media rewards outrage. Arguments escalate instantly. People speak when angry, text when emotional, and make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. Then they regret it. Stoics understood something extraordinary centuries ago. Your first emotional response is often not your wisest response. When anger appears, pause. When fear appears, pause. When disappointment appears, pause. That pause may be the difference between destroying a relationship and saving it, between quitting and persevering, between regret and wisdom. Seneca warned that anger is temporary madness. In anger, people say things they cannot take back. They destroy opportunities. They sabotage themselves. Think about your own life. How many painful moments began with an impulsive reaction, a harsh text, an emotional outburst, a decision made in frustration? Now imagine if you had waited 1 hour, 1 day, even 10 minutes. Your entire life might look different. Mentally strong individuals understand that emotions are information, not commands. Feeling anger does not mean you must act angrily. Feeling fear does not mean you must retreat. Feeling sadness does not mean you must surrender. Your emotions knock on the door, but you decide who enters. A Navy SEAL once explained that during extreme combat situations, panic kills. Training teaches them to slow down, breathe, assess, and respond deliberately. The same principle applies to everyday life. Your battlefield may not involve bullets. It may involve betrayal, financial stress, rejection, humiliation, loss, yet the principle remains identical. Respond. Do not react, because every emotional storm eventually passes. But the consequences of impulsive decisions often remain for years. And what if the people who hurt you are actually giving you something valuable without realizing it? That brings us to the third lesson. The third Stoic lesson is use adversity as training. Most people ask why me when hardship appears. Stoics ask what for. This single question transforms victims into warriors. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, political conspiracies, disease, and unimaginable pressure while ruling an empire. Yet he repeatedly reminded himself that obstacles are not interruptions to life. Obstacles are life. The obstacle becomes the way. Read that again. The obstacle becomes the way. Every challenge contains hidden strength. Rejection teaches self-respect. Failure teaches resilience. Loneliness teaches independence. Betrayal teaches discernment. Pain teaches gratitude. Without resistance, muscles never grow stronger. Without difficulty, character never develops. Imagine 2 trees. One grows inside a protected greenhouse, never exposed to wind. The other grows on a mountainside facing storms every season. Which tree develops deeper roots? The same is true for human beings. Comfort rarely produces greatness. Adversity often does. Many of history's strongest individuals were shaped by suffering. They did not become resilient despite hardship. They became resilient because of hardship. This does not mean you should enjoy suffering. It means you should refuse to waste it. Every painful experience carries a lesson. Every setback contains information. Every challenge offers an opportunity to become someone stronger than you were yesterday. The question is not whether adversity will come. It will. The question is who you will become when it arrives, and the answer depends on the lesson we will explore next. Because there is one hidden habit silently destroying mental strength in millions of people every single day. The fourth Stoic lesson is stop depending on external validation. One of the greatest weaknesses in modern society is the desperate need to be approved by other people. Entire lives are built around applause. People change their personalities to fit in. They silence their opinions to avoid criticism. They chase likes, followers, praise, and recognition, hoping that validation from others will finally make them feel worthy. But it never does. Because the moment your self-worth depends on other people, you become their prisoner. Think about how many dreams have died because someone feared being judged. How many talented people never started a business, never wrote a book, never changed careers, never spoke their truth because they were terrified of criticism. The Stoics understood something most people never learn. Other people's opinions are not facts. A person can misunderstand you, judge you, criticize you, reject you, and still be completely wrong. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that fame after death means nothing, because those remembering you will soon disappear themselves. Harsh words, perhaps, but incredibly liberating. Why sacrifice your peace for temporary approval from temporary people? The reality is that no matter what you do, someone will criticize you. If you succeed, people may envy you. If you fail, people may mock you. If you remain silent, people may misunderstand you. If you speak openly, people may disagree. You cannot win this game, so stop playing it. Live according to principles, not popularity. The mentally strong person wakes up each morning asking a different question. Not what will people think of me, but did I live according to my values? Imagine two men. The first spends his life pleasing everyone around him. He says yes when he wants to say no. He hides his authentic self. He constantly seeks approval. The second lives honestly. He treats people with respect, but refuses to betray himself for acceptance. Years later, the first man feels exhausted, resentful, and empty. The second feels free, because freedom begins when you stop outsourcing your self-respect. And once you no longer need validation, something extraordinary happens. Criticism loses its power. Rejection loses its sting. You become emotionally independent. But emotional independence requires another difficult practice, one that many people avoid their entire lives. The fifth Stoic lesson is learn to be alone without feeling lonely. Many people fear solitude more than suffering itself. They constantly surround themselves with noise, endless entertainment, endless scrolling, endless distractions, endless relationships, even unhealthy ones. Anything to avoid being alone with their own thoughts. Yet the Stoics believed solitude was essential for wisdom, because when you are alone, you meet yourself. And many people do not like who they meet. They discover unresolved pain, regret, insecurity, fear, unhealed wounds. So they run, but running only postpones the encounter. Eventually, life forces everyone into solitude, a breakup, retirement, loss, illness, a quiet house after children leave. The people who have never learned to be alone often collapse during these moments. The mentally strong do not, because they have already developed an inner life. They understand that solitude is not punishment, it is training. Some of history's greatest thinkers created their best work in periods of isolation. They used silence to reflect, heal, and grow. Epictetus taught that no person is free who is not master of themselves, and self-mastery cannot develop in constant distraction. Try this. Spend 30 minutes alone without your phone, television, music, or distractions. Just sit with your thoughts. For many people, this feels uncomfortable. That discomfort reveals something important. Your relationship with yourself determines the quality of your entire life. If you cannot enjoy your own company, no external relationship will permanently satisfy you. Because loneliness is not always the absence of people. Sometimes loneliness exists in crowded rooms, and peace often exists in solitude. Learn to enjoy your own presence. Learn to think deeply. Learn to listen to yourself, because one day your greatest source of strength may come not from others, but from the relationship you build with yourself. And when that relationship becomes strong, another transformation begins. You stop fearing loss, which brings us to one of the most powerful Stoic teachings ever recorded. The sixth Stoic lesson is remember that everything is temporary. Most suffering comes from attachment. We become attached to people, positions, possessions, youth, success, and certainty. Then life changes, and we suffer because we expected permanence in an impermanent world. Stoics practiced a powerful exercise called negative visualization. They intentionally reflected on loss, not to become pessimistic, but to become grateful. Imagine waking tomorrow and losing something you currently take for granted. your health, your home, your career, someone you deeply love. Suddenly, everything looks different. You appreciate what you still have. You stop postponing important conversations. You stop taking ordinary moments for granted, because life is fragile. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. At first, this idea sounds dark, but it is actually incredibly freeing. When you remember that life is temporary, trivial problems lose importance, petty arguments become meaningless, ego weakens, gratitude grows, you become more present, more courageous, more compassionate. Consider how many people postpone happiness. They tell themselves they will enjoy life after they earn more money, after they retire, after they achieve success. Then suddenly, decades disappear. The Stoics would ask a simple question: what are you waiting for? Life is happening now. This moment, not someday now. The mentally strong understand that mortality is not something to fear. It is something that gives urgency, meaning, and beauty to life, because if life lasted forever, nothing would matter. Scarcity creates value, and knowing that time is limited forces us to focus on what truly matters. Relationships, character, purpose, service, growth, love. Yet even understanding life's temporary nature does not eliminate suffering entirely. There will still be moments when life feels unfair, moments when pain seems unbearable, moments when giving up feels easier than continuing. And during those moments, the seventh Stoic lesson may become your greatest weapon. The seventh Stoic lesson is, endure what you cannot escape. Modern culture often promises quick fixes, instant happiness, instant healing, instant success. But real life rarely works that way. Some pain cannot be avoided. Some storms cannot be escaped. Sometimes all you can do is endure. And there is tremendous power in endurance. Think about the hardest period of your life. Perhaps you lost someone you loved. Perhaps you experienced betrayal. Perhaps you faced financial collapse, depression, rejection, or profound loneliness. At the time, you probably believed you would never recover. Yet here you are, still standing, stronger than before. Human beings are far more resilient than they realize. The problem is that people underestimate themselves. They assume discomfort will destroy them. They assume pain will break them. Often it does the opposite. It reveals their strength. Seneca observed that fire tests gold and adversity tests strong men. Without challenges, you never discover what you are capable of. The next time suffering enters your life, remember this. You do not have to enjoy the experience. You do not have to understand it immediately. You simply have to continue. One day, 1 hour. Sometimes one breath at a time. Because endurance itself is a form of victory. And what if the greatest battle you will ever fight is not against external circumstances at all? What if it is against your own mind? That is exactly where the next lesson begins. The eighth Stoic lesson is, guard your mind, as if your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Every single day, your mind is under attack. Negative news, social media comparisons, fear-driven headlines, endless distractions, toxic opinions, people projecting their insecurities onto you. If you are not careful, you begin consuming so much negativity that eventually you start believing it. You begin believing you are not good enough. You begin believing life is unfair only to you. You begin believing success belongs to other people. You begin believing your best years are behind you, and slowly, without realizing it, you surrender control of your mind. Marcus Aurelius warned that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Think about that for a moment. Your thoughts shape your identity. If you constantly feed your mind fear, you become fearful. If you constantly feed your mind anger, you become bitter. If you constantly feed your mind envy, you become resentful. But if you feed your mind wisdom, discipline, gratitude, and courage, something extraordinary begins to happen. You become mentally unshakable. This does not mean ignoring reality or pretending problems do not exist. It means choosing carefully what deserves space inside your mind. Imagine your mind as a home. Would you allow strangers to walk inside every day and leave garbage everywhere? Of course not. Yet many people do exactly that mentally. They allow criticism, insults, negativity, and endless comparison to occupy their thoughts for weeks, months, even years. A single negative comment ruins their entire day. One rejection destroys their confidence. One setback convinces them to quit. Stoicism teaches something different. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves your response. Not every battle deserves your energy. The mentally strong develop filters. They ask themselves important questions. Is this true? Is this useful? Can I control this? If the answer is no, they let it go, because peace is not found by controlling everything around you. Peace is found by controlling what you allow within you. And once you begin mastering your thoughts, you discover another truth that separates extraordinary people from ordinary people. The 9th Stoic lesson is, discipline is greater than motivation. Most people wait until they feel motivated. They wait to exercise until they feel inspired. They wait to pursue goals until confidence appears. They wait to change until the perfect moment arrives. The problem is that motivation is unreliable. Some days you feel unstoppable. Other days you feel exhausted, discouraged, and uncertain. If your actions depend on feelings, your progress will always remain inconsistent. Stoics understood that character is built through repeated action, not temporary emotion. Discipline means doing what must be done, even when you do not feel like doing it. This is where real transformation happens. Anyone can work hard when they feel inspired. Anyone can remain calm when life is easy. Anyone can pursue goals when results come quickly. But can you continue when progress is invisible? Can you continue when nobody supports you? Can you continue when you are tired, disappointed, and afraid? That is where mentally strong people separate themselves. Consider the story of a man who decided to rebuild his life after years of failure. He was overweight, financially struggling, and deeply unhappy. At first, he felt highly motivated. He exercised daily, read books, and worked on new goals. Then, motivation disappeared. The excitement faded. Results slowed. He wanted to quit. But instead of quitting, he made a simple decision. He would continue no matter how he felt. Some days he trained enthusiastically, other days he trained reluctantly, but he never stopped. Months later, his body changed. Years later, his entire life changed. Not because of motivation, because of discipline. Small actions repeated consistently create extraordinary outcomes. One workout, one page, one difficult conversation, one courageous decision, day after day, week after week, year after year. This is how powerful lives are built. And perhaps the greatest secret of discipline is this. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, self-respect grows. Every time you break a promise to yourself, self-trust weakens. Mentally strong people protect their self-trust fiercely because they know that confidence is not something you think. It is something you earn. And this brings us to the final lesson, the lesson that may change your life forever. The 10th Stoic lesson is become the person you admire. Many people spend years searching for heroes, mentors, and role models. There is nothing wrong with admiration. But eventually a question must be asked. When will you become the example? Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to stop talking about what a good person is and simply be one. These words carry enormous power because knowledge alone changes nothing. Reading books changes nothing. Watching videos changes nothing. Listening to wisdom changes nothing. Only action transforms. You already know more than enough to begin. You know honesty matters. You know discipline matters. You know courage matters. You know kindness matters. You know self-control matters. The challenge has never been knowledge. The challenge has always been implementation. Imagine yourself 5 years from now. One version continues living unconsciously, reacting emotionally, seeking validation, avoiding discomfort, making excuses, remaining trapped in familiar patterns. The other version practices these Stoic lessons daily. They control what they can control. They respond rather than react. They embrace adversity. They seek self-respect instead of approval. They cultivate solitude. They remember life's temporary nature. They endure hardship. They guard their minds. They live with discipline. They act according to their values. Which person will you become? The answer is being decided right now, not tomorrow, not next year. Today, every decision you make either strengthens or weakens your character. Every challenge either builds you or defeats you depending on how you respond. Life will continue testing you. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Pain will visit you. Loss will arrive. None of this can be avoided, but suffering does not have to destroy you. You can become someone who remains calm during chaos, someone who remains strong during adversity, someone who remains kind despite betrayal, someone who remains disciplined despite difficulty, someone who remains unshakable no matter what life brings. Because true strength is not the absence of struggle. True strength is the ability to face struggle without losing yourself. Years from now, you may look back on this moment and realize that this was the day everything changed. The day you stopped waiting for life to become easier. The day you decided to become stronger. The Stoics believed that within every human being exists extraordinary potential waiting to be awakened. That potential exists within you right now. The question is whether you will choose to awaken it. If this message resonated with you, write the word unshakable in the comments below. It is more than a word. It is a commitment to yourself that no matter what challenges appear, you will continue growing stronger. And if you want more powerful lessons on Stoicism, self-mastery, discipline, and mental toughness, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next video may contain the exact insight you need at the exact moment you need it. Until next time, remember this. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can always control who you become.